Located in North Africa, Tunisia is a fascinating country with a rich history stretching back millennia. My wife and I spent 5 days here and had a great time taking in the sights and learning more about the region. If you saw my last video though, then you'll know that our travels with the nation's flag carrier, Tunisair, left a lot to be desired. And honestly, once I got off their A330 after our long flight from Montreal, I really didn't want to fly with them again. However, I booked today's flight to London with Tunisair before we left Montreal, so we needed to suck it up and head back to the airport for one last flight with Tunisia's national airline. We're flying in business class though, so it should be a lot more comfortable this time. Named after the historic city of Carthage, Tunis-Carthage International Airport serves more than 1 million passengers annually and is the home base of Tunisair. When I walked inside, it felt more like entering a mosque or a palace rather than an international airport. The arrivals hall is intricately decorated, and you can't miss this beautiful mosaic on the ceiling. The amenities here are pretty standard, but I really like this airport for just how unique the architecture is. We made our way to the check-in area, and there was only a short queue. However, once we reached the front, we were directed to the dedicated business class desk, where we were forced to wait for quite a while. It was definitely a little frustrating that the business class line was so much longer than the economy one, but we were checked in eventually and made our way through security and passport control. We arrived pretty early, so a lot of the shops weren't open yet, except for the duty-free. This airport was significantly expanded back in 1997 in order to increase capacity to over 4 million passengers per year, and then further expanded in 2005. The departures area is in this sort of satellite section, and it has its own cafes, shops, and smoking areas. The sections that house the actual gates branch off from here, and they all have domed roofs, and there's these cool mosaics in some of them. The airport isn't that big, so I was able to explore it fairly quickly and then head to the business class lounge. This lounge gained an infamous reputation through a Josh Cahill video where it seemed to be largely abandoned. But it was fully staffed and had quite a few passengers inside today. It's not huge, but there's a buffet which was stocked with some breakfast items, and a bar where I ordered something to wake me up. I came in with low expectations, but I was actually pretty impressed. There were plenty of comfortable seats, and even a relaxation room. It wasn't elaborate, but in all, it was a nice place to spend an hour or two. About 10 minutes before boarding, we left the lounge and headed to the gate, where our documents were checked, and then we were escorted back to the lounge. The gate agents didn't speak English, so we were really confused, but a lounge employee explained that our flight was delayed and that they would make an announcement once boarding began. There weren't any notifications displayed about the delay, and as time passed we found plenty of other confused London-bound passengers in the lounge. And it was one of these passengers who eventually alerted us that our plane was boarding, as the promised announcement never materialized. The majority of Tunisair's fleet is made up of A320-200s, with an average age of a little over 20 years old. Thankfully though, I'll be flying on one of their new A320neos, with this particular plane being only about a year old. The gate area was pretty hectic when we got there, but business class passengers were given priority, so we were able to breeze by and get on board first. There were 12 seats in a 2-2 layout, and I was glad to see that the cabin resembled the domestic first-class cabins that many US carriers have, instead of the Eurobiz configuration that they have on their older A320s. I'll be sitting in 3A for this 2-hour and 45-minute flight to Gatwick Airport. First impression, I thought the seat itself was nice. It was spacious, and there was plenty of legroom. The headrest is adjustable, and there's a decent amount of recline. There's also a footrest that extends like this. Although you still need to sit next to someone else, there's a wide armrest in the center which has 2 universal outlets. The tray table pulls out easily from the armrest, and this little bit extends out for extra stability. I also really like that they had this device holder. There's no IFE screens in front of you, but there was plenty of storage. You can find another storage area next to you in the armrest. And there's also a coat hook, along with overhead reading lights and air vents. The downside, however, was that it was a little dirty. This was one unfortunate similarity this plane had with Tunisair's A330. No pre-flight beverages were offered while we waited for boarding to finish, which I didn't really mind because I had plenty in the lounge. And about 40 minutes after our scheduled departure, the cabin doors were closed and we pushed back from the gate. While we were taxiing out to the runway, I spotted this 737 belonging to the Ukrainian airline SkyUp. It had flown in from Germany, so presumably it had been chartered to ferry in holiday makers to one of the many resorts in Tunisia. Tourism plays an important role in the country's economy, but sadly there's been a downturn in this sector over the last few years. Tunisia has a lot to offer, and we felt perfectly safe here. Hopefully tourism picks up again and helps to boost the country's struggling economy. Shortly after we reached cruising altitude, I noticed that the crew got to work on the meal service in economy. On the other hand, business class wasn't served until we were flying over Corsica. However, it was worth the wait as this meal ended up being one of the highlights of this flight. We left the hotel around 4:30 in the morning, so I ordered another coffee because I was still tired. And it was served in this really nice cup which was branded with the Tunisair logo. Next came breakfast, which came on a tray, but the food was also served on various dishes all containing the same Tunisair logo. Everyone received what I believed was some sort of crepe with cheese and mushrooms. This came with some bread and a selection of cheese, along with some fruit. I really enjoyed this meal, but unfortunately there was no vegan option, so my wife was only able to eat the fruit and some of the bread. But I was more than happy to eat the crepe that she was given because it was absolutely delicious. Once the meal was cleared away, I decided to go check out the dedicated business class lavatory. If you watched my last video, then you'll know that the lavatory on the Tunisair A330 I flew on was gross and in terrible condition. But thankfully the lavatory on this plane was in good shape, and most importantly, it was kept clean. I also used one of the lavatories in the economy cabin, and I didn't find any issues with it. When I got back to my seat, I took a look at the in-flight entertainment. As mentioned, there's no seatback monitors, but there's Wi-Fi that you can use to stream movies and TV shows to your personal device at no cost. There wasn't a huge selection, and the Wi-Fi did cut out at certain points during the flight, but I definitely preferred this to the seatback system on my last flight with Tunisair. They also did a great job explaining how you could connect to the Wi-Fi. A major pet peeve of mine is when airlines don't clearly explain how to log on to their Wi-Fi, but Tunisair went above and beyond here. Not only did they have printed instructions on their tray tables, but they were also plastered on the walls, and even on the ceiling, so there was no way you could miss it. This flight to Gatwick wasn't all that long, so I really didn't take advantage of the Wi-Fi, and instead I wandered back into the economy cabin to see what it was like. In total, there's 138 seats in the 3-3 layout, and everything seemed to be in good condition. I think I would have been happy to fly in one of those seats, but I'm still glad I booked business for this trip. Despite the cabin being a bit dirty, it felt nice and private, and the seats were comfortable. I also thought the crew were friendly and very attentive. In total, this flight cost me $343. Now I'm sure that some of you will say that that's a bit steep for a 2-hour and 45-minute flight, but I thought it was worth it considering that we were allowed to check 3 bags and carry on 2 bags, and economy tickets were going for around $120 at the time of booking, so for me it was worth it to spend a little more to fly business. We flew into a patch of turbulence, but soon enough we passed into British airspace and the cabin was prepped for landing.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just landed at London Gatwick Airport. It's 15 minutes to 11 local time.
This was a nice flight, but was it enjoyable enough to make me want to fly with Tunisair again? That's a tough one. Having a nice seat, lots of checked bags, and lounge access was nice. But the delay really put me off about this flight, especially considering that my flight from Canada with them was also delayed. For this flight it really didn't bother us because we didn't have any plans this morning, but Tunisair really seems to have a bad track record here, and it would definitely be an issue if we had another flight to catch or loved ones waiting for us at the airport. However, if time wasn't an issue and I could get a good deal on a business class seat on board their A320neo again, I would definitely be tempted to take another trip with them.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you have enjoyed your flight with us in spite of this delay, and we look forward to seeing you again on our flights. Thank you.
Well, that'll do it for this video. Let me know below what you think about Tunisair. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.